The United Earth Defense Headquarters. The holographic display showed Mars surrounded by enemy ships. They've begun their landing operations, reported General Thomas Rodriguez, commander of ground forces. His weathered face showed the strain of sleepless nights. Governor Okafor's resistance has slowed them down, but the Vraxians control most of the surface now. Admiral Nakamura nodded grimly. What about our stealth ships? The Shadow is in position, General Rodriguez replied. Commander Patel reports they're ready when we are. And Project Eclipse? Dr. Webb stepped forward. Professor Volkov's team has made progress. The device is ready for deployment, but... He hesitated. But what, Doctor? Admiral Nakamura demanded. But we're still not sure how wide the effect will spread or exactly what it will do to the Vraxians. The Phantom's data helped, but there are still too many unknowns. Admiral Nakamura's face hardened. We're out of time for certainties, Doctor. The Vraxians have already destroyed our outer colonies and taken Mars. Earth is next. She turned to the communications officer. Send the go-ahead to Commander Patel. Operation Thunderclap begins now. Hidden behind Phobos, one of Mars' moons, the stealth ship Shadow waited. Unlike other human vessels, it was nearly invisible to sensors. Its hull covered with light-absorbing materials and its engines designed to leave no heat signature. On the bridge, Commander Ria Patel received the coded message from Earth. It's time, she told her crew of 12. We have one chance to get this right. Lieutenant Kayambeki looked up from his station. 6 months ago, he had been a civilian engineer working on Mars colony's power systems. Now he was responsible for the most important weapon humanity had ever created. Project Eclipse is ready, he reported. But I should warn you again, Commander. We don't know exactly what will happen when we activate it. Commander Patel gave him a tight smile. That's why they call it experimental, Lieutenant. She addressed the entire crew. Our mission is simple but crucial. We need to get close enough to the Vraxian main base to deploy Project Eclipse. If it works as Professor Volkov believes, it will disrupt the Vraxians' neural systems and their technology. If it doesn't, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew what failure meant. Begin approach, she ordered. Minimum power, maximum stealth. The Shadow moved slowly from its hiding place, creeping toward Mars like a ghost. On the red planet below, the Vraxians had established their main base in what used to be Mars colony's capital dome. The once beautiful city with its gardens and towers was now filled with alien technology and soldiers. Underground, in the natural caves beneath the surface, Governor Okafor led the human resistance. She had converted mining tunnels into a maze of hidden passages, allowing her people to strike at the aliens and then disappear. Another supply depot destroyed, reported one of her fighters, returning from a mission. His face was streaked with red Martian dust and sweat. The Vraxians are starting to restrict their patrols to the main corridors. They're afraid to go into the smaller tunnels. Governor Okafor smiled grimly. Good. Fear is a weapon we can use. She studied the map of underground passages. What about their communications center? Heavily guarded. We'd need at least 20 people to have a chance, and even then, we don't need to attack it, Governor Okafor said. Just need to keep their attention on us for the next few hours. As the resistance fighters prepared for their diversion, the Shadow continued its approach to Mars. So far, the Vraxian ships in orbit hadn't detected them, but they were about to enter the most dangerous part of their mission. 2 patrol ships at 3 o'clock, reported the sensor officer. They'll pass within 500 meters of us. Commander Patel held her breath as the alien vessels moved near them. One change in their patrol route, one random scan in their direction, and the Shadow would be discovered. The patrol ships passed by without slowing. Commander Patel released her breath slowly. Continue approach. Prepare for atmospheric entry. Entering Mars' thin atmosphere without being detected would be the hardest part of their mission. Even with minimal power, the friction would create heat that sensors might detect. Ready for blackout procedure, Commander Patel ordered. All non-essential systems powered down, leaving only life support and minimal controls active. The ship grew cold and dark as they began their descent. On the surface, Governor Okafor's resistance launched their diversion. Explosions rocked the northern sector of the Vraxian base, drawing alien troops away from the southern landing area where the Shadow was heading. We're through the upper atmosphere, Lieutenant Mbeki reported. No pursuit detected. Commander Patel allowed herself a small smile. Take us in. Landing Zone B. The shadow touched down silently in a small crater 3 kilometers from the main Vraxian base. Commander Patel selected 4 crew members to accompany her. The rest of you stay with the ship. If we're not back in 2 hours, take off without us and report to Earth. They exited the ship wearing Martian environmental suits modified to mask their life signs. Each carried a portion of Project Eclipse, a device small enough to fit in a backpack but powerful enough, they hoped, to change the course of the war. As they made their way across the Martian landscape, Governor Okafor's diversion continued. The resistance fighters had drawn most of the Vraxian forces to the northern sector, leaving the southern approach relatively unguarded. 500 meters to the base perimeter, Lieutenant Mbeki said, checking his scanner. I'm not detecting many guards. Stay alert, Commander Patel warned. Remember what the Phantom's data showed. Vraxians can mask their life signs too. They reached the base perimeter without incident and found a maintenance airlock used for external repairs. Lieutenant Mbeki connected a device to the control panel, bypassing the security system. The door opened silently, allowing them entry into what had once been the agricultural sector of Mars Colony. This way, Commander Patel said, consulting the base schematics they had memorized. We need to reach the central power distribution node. It's the perfect place to deploy Project Eclipse. They moved carefully through abandoned hydroponic gardens now filled with strange alien equipment. Twice they had to hide as Vraxian patrols passed nearby. The alien soldiers moved with an eerie grace that seemed almost mechanical. Finally, they reached the central power node, a large chamber filled with humming equipment connecting to conduits that spread throughout the base. This is it, Lieutenant Mbeki said, opening his backpack to remove components of Project Eclipse. I'll need 5 minutes to assemble and activate it. Make it 3, Commander Patel replied, watching the entrances nervously. I don't think our diversion will last much longer. As Lieutenant Mbeki worked, Commander Patel's radio crackled with a message from Governor Okafor. The Vraxians are returning to the southern sector. They must have realized the attack was a diversion. Get out now. Too late to abort, Commander Patel replied. We're already in position. How much time can you give us? 3 minutes, maybe 4. Then you're on your own. Lieutenant Mbeki worked frantically, connecting the final components of Project Eclipse. The device began to hum, its central core glowing with an unearthly blue light. It's ready, he announced, but we need to be at least 1 kilometer away when it activates. The shielding on our suits should protect us, but I wouldn't want to test that theory up close. Commander Patel nodded. Set the timer for 10 minutes. That should give us enough time to get clear. She looked at her team. Move out. Same way we came in. They had almost reached the airlock when alarms began blaring throughout the base. A voice spoke in the harsh Vraxian language, but its meaning was clear. Intruders detected. Run, Commander Patel ordered. They burst through the airlock and sprinted across the Martian surface, their suits enhanced servos allowing them to move faster than normally possible in Mars's gravity. Behind them, Vraxian soldiers poured out of the base in pursuit. 5 minutes until Project Eclipse activates. Lieutenant Mbeki gasped as they ran. We need more distance. A Vraxian energy weapon fired, the beam narrowly missing Commander Patel's head. Another struck one of her team in the back, dropping him instantly. Keep moving, she shouted, though every instinct told her to go back for her fallen comrade. The mission comes first. They had covered half the distance to their ship when the sky lit up with arrival flares. More Vraxian vessels entering Mars's atmosphere, likely responding to the alert. We'll never make it to the shadow, Lieutenant Mbeki said, his voice tight with fear. We don't need to, Commander Patel replied. We just need to get far enough from the base. She spotted a cluster of large boulders ahead. There, we can take cover behind those rocks. They reached the boulders with less than a minute to spare. Crouching behind the largest one, they watched as Vraxian soldiers spread out, searching for them. 30 seconds, Lieutenant Mbeki whispered, checking the timer on his wrist display. Commander Patel closed her eyes. Either humanity was about to gain its first real advantage in this war, or they were about to die for nothing. 5 seconds, Lieutenant Mbeki counted down. 4, 3, 2, 1. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a wave of blue energy pulsed outward from the Vraxian base, expanding in a perfect sphere. It passed through the rocks where they hid, through their suits, through their bodies. A strange tingling sensation that made Commander Patel's teeth ache. When the wave reached the pursuing Vraxian soldiers, the effect was immediate and shocking. The aliens began to convulse, their smooth blue skin rippling as if something moved beneath it. They dropped their weapons and fell to the ground, writhing in what appeared to be intense pain. It worked, Lieutenant Mbeki breathed. It actually worked. But the effects didn't stop there. The wave continued outward, reaching the Vraxian ships in the sky. Some simply stopped in midair, then crashed to the surface. Others began to move erratically as if their control systems had gone haywire. Most surprising of all was what happened at the main base. Through her binoculars, Commander Patel watched as some Vraxians turned their weapons on each other. "They're fighting among themselves," she said in disbelief. "Why would they do that?" Lieutenant Mbeki studied the readings on his scanner. The wave didn't just affect their technology. It did something to their neural systems too. Maybe disrupted some kind of control mechanism? Before Commander Patel could respond, her radio crackled with Governor Okafor's voice. "Whatever you just did, it worked better than we could have hoped. The Vraxians are in chaos. Some are attacking each other, others are just standing still like they're confused. Can your forces take advantage?" "Already on it. We're moving to secure key areas of the base now." Commander Patel signaled to the Shadow for pickup. As they waited, she watched the Vraxian base through her binoculars. What she saw was beyond anything they had expected. A full-scale civil war had erupted among the aliens. Two distinct groups fought each other with increasing ferocity. When they returned to Earth with news of their success, Dr. Webb studied the data from Project Eclipse with growing excitement. "This changes everything," he told Admiral Nakamura. The Phantom was right. The Vraxians aren't a single unified species. They're a ruling class controlling a slave race through neural implants. Project Eclipse disrupted those implants, freeing the slaves. So now, instead of fighting one enemy, the Vraxians are fighting themselves, Admiral Nakamura said. "Exactly. And it gets better." Dr. Webb displayed new data from Mars. "Governor Okafor has established communication with the freed Vraxians. They're willing to help us fight their former masters." Admiral Nakamura looked at the holographic display showing the Vraxian fleet in disarray around Mars. For the first time since the war began, she allowed herself to feel hope. "Prepare our fleet," she ordered. "It's time to take the fight to them." You picked a fight with humanity. Don't expect to survive. 6 months after the liberation of Mars, Admiral Olivia Nakamura stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, humanity's newest and most powerful warship, built using a combination of human ingenuity and adapted Vraxian technology. It was the flagship of Earth's counteroffensive fleet. "All ships report ready." "Admiral," announced her tactical officer, Lieutenant Lori Hawkins. At just 32, Hawkins had already earned a reputation for brilliant and unorthodox strategies that had helped win several key battles. Admiral Nakamura nodded, studying the fleet gathered before her. 50 human vessels accompanied by 30 ships, crewed by freed Vraxians, former slaves now fighting alongside humanity, against their one-time masters. "Open. A channel to all ships," she ordered. When the communication officer signaled that all ships were listening, Admiral Nakamura spoke clearly and confidently. "This is Admiral Nakamura. Today we take the fight to the enemy's home. For 6 months we have pushed the Vraxian forces back, liberating our colonies and freeing more of their enslaved people. Now we strike at the heart of their empire, their homeworld." She paused, looking at the faces of her bridge crew. They were tired but determined. "The Vraxians started this war believing we were weak. They will end it knowing that humanity is the most dangerous species they could have chosen to attack. Prepare for jump." The massive fleet moved into position around the newly constructed jump gate, a device based on Vraxian technology that would allow them to travel vast distances instantly. Unlike the slow journey that had brought the Vraxians to Earth, the human fleet would arrive at their homeworld in seconds. On a smaller vessel near the edge of the formation, Dr. Webb worked with a team of scientists and their Vraxian allies. The lead Vraxian, who had taken the name Viridian after being freed, explained the cultural practices of his people. "The ruling caste has controlled our civilization for millennia," Viridian said. His skin was a lighter blue than the ruling Vraxians, with distinctive markings that had been surgically hidden during his enslavement. "They believe they are genetically superior and destined to rule the galaxy. All other races, including their own subspecies like mine, exist only to serve them." Dr. Webb frowned. But why attack humanity specifically? We posed no threat to them. We didn't even know they existed until they attacked the Pathfinder. Viridian's large eyes blinked slowly. The ancient prophecies? The ruling caste claims they are scientific predictions, not religious texts. But they guide all major decisions. These prophecies speak of a young species with great adaptive potential, who would rise to challenge Vraxian supremacy. And they believe this referred to humans. Your species fits all the markers. You evolved on a challenging world with rapidly changing conditions. You adapted through intelligence rather than specialized biology. You expanded from your homeworld faster than any known species, and most frightening to them, you have tremendous genetic diversity and technological innovation. Dr. Webb considered this. So they attacked us not because of what we'd done, but because of what they feared we might become. Precisely. And now, ironically, their attack has accelerated your development. By forcing humans to adapt Vraxian technology, they have created the very threat they sought to prevent. The conversation was interrupted by the announcement that the jump sequence was beginning. All across the fleet, crews secured equipment and prepared for the disorienting experience of moving instantly across hundreds of light years. Lieutenant Hawkins counted down. "Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Space seemed to fold around them. For a brief moment, everyone experienced a sensation of being stretched and compressed simultaneously. Then suddenly they were there, orbiting a distant star system with 3 planets. The innermost was the Vraxian homeworld. "Jump successful," reported Lieutenant Hawkins, checking her instruments. "All ships accounted for. We've achieved complete tactical surprise. No defensive fleet in position." Admiral Nakamura allowed herself a small smile. "Perfect. Deploy the fleet according to plan. Battle Group Alpha will secure orbital positions. Battle Group Beta will engage any defensive vessels. The Vengeance will lead Battle Group Gamma to the surface." As the human fleet moved into position, the Vraxians scrambled to respond. Their homeworld had never been attacked before. Their technological superiority had protected them for thousands of years. Now they faced an enemy using their own technology against them, and they were unprepared. The first wave of human fighters swarmed through the planet's atmosphere, targeting key military installations with precision strikes. Unlike the Vraxians, who had attacked civilian colonies, the humans focused only on military targets, a distinction not lost on the watching universe. Admiral Nakamura led the Vengeance toward the capital city, where the Vraxian ruling council resided. Their mission wasn't to destroy the city, but to force a surrender by capturing the leadership. "Incoming vessels," Lieutenant Hawkins warned. "Looks like their home fleet has finally responded." A dozen large Vraxian warships appeared on the sensors, moving to intercept the Vengeance. "Evasive maneuvers," Admiral Nakamura ordered calmly. "Prepare to deploy Project Eclipse version 3. Project Eclipse had evolved significantly since its first use on Mars. The original device had been large and affected everything in its radius. Version 3 was more targeted, designed specifically to disrupt the neural implants used to control the slave, cast without affecting other technology. Project Eclipse ready, Lieutenant Hawkins. Confirmed. Deploy on my mark. Admiral Nakamura waited until the Vraxian ships were within optimal range. Mark! A focused pulse of energy shot from the Vengeance, washing over the approaching Vraxian fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the massive warships began to drift off course. Some turned away entirely, while others simply stopped moving. "It worked," Lieutenant Hawkins reported with satisfaction. 80% of their crews appear to be slave caste. "They've stopped following orders." Admiral Nakamura nodded. "Open a channel to those ships. Let our allies speak to them." Viridian's voice transmitted to the Vraxian vessels, speaking in their native language about freedom and choice. Across the enemy fleet, the slave caste crew members began to rebel against their masters. With the space around the planet secured, Admiral Nakamura led a smaller force to the surface. The Vraxian capital, a sprawling city of crystal spires and elevated walkways, lay before them. At its center stood the council chamber, where the ruling caste made their decisions. "Remember," Admiral Nakamura told the landing teams, "our goal is to capture, not kill. We want their surrender and a lasting peace." The human forces moved through the city, facing surprisingly little resistance. Most of the slave caste Vraxians simply stood aside, watching with TI. ere large, expressive eyes as the humans passed. At the council chamber, however, they met fierce opposition. The ruling caste had gathered their most loyal guards, genetically modified warriors who had no neural implants to disrupt. The battle was intense but brief. Human soldiers fighting alongside freed Vraxians pushed forward with determination. Lieutenant Hawkins led a small team that outflanked the defenders, approaching the chamber from an unexpected direction. Finally, they broke through to the inner sanctum, where the 7 members of the Vraxian High Council waited. Unlike the other ruling caste members, these leaders wore no weapons and made no move to resist. "You have come as the prophecy foretold," said the eldest council member, his voice deep and resonant. "The species who would challenge our dominion." Admiral Nakamura stepped forward. "We came because you attacked us without provocation. You destroyed our colonies and killed our people. We didn't want this war. Yet you have proven the prophecy correct," the council member replied. "In mere months you have mastered technology that took us centuries to develop. You have turned our own people against us. You have reached our homeworld when no enemy has ever done so before. We don't want to destroy you," Admiral Nakamura said firmly. "We want peace. For ourselves, for your enslaved people, and for any other species you've subjugated." The council members looked at each other, communicating silently in the way of their species. Finally, the eldest spoke again. Perhaps the prophecy was misinterpreted. It spoke of humans rising to challenge us, but not necessarily to destroy us. "There's a difference between challenge and threat," Dr. Webb said, stepping forward. "Competition drives innovation. Cooperation creates strength. You saw us as a threat to eliminate when we could have been allies who helped you grow." As they spoke, an alert sounded on Lieutenant Hawkins's communicator. She checked it, then turned to Admiral Nakamura with an alarmed expression. "Admiral, we're detecting a massive energy buildup beneath the city. Some kind of doomsday device has been activated." The eldest council member's face showed no emotion. "If we cannot rule, no one will. The device will destroy this planet and create a shockwave that will reach your fleet. The prophecy will remain unfulfilled." Admiral Nakamura's response was immediate. "Contact the Vengeance. Have them deploy Professor Volkov's containment field around the planet." Now, Dr. Webb looked horrified. "That's never been tested at planetary scale. The professor said it might not work." "We don't have a choice," Admiral Nakamura replied grimly. Then she turned back to the Vraxian Council. "This is the difference between our species. You would destroy your own homeworld and people rather than accept defeat. We fight to protect life, not end it." The ground beneath them trembled as the doomsday device powered up. On the Vengeance, Professor Volkov himself directed the deployment of his most advanced creation, a containment field designed to hold the destructive energy of the device. "Containment, field at maximum power," reported the science officer on the Vengeance, "but it may not be enough." Professor Volkov's hands flew over the controls, making last-second adjustments. "Redirect power from weapon systems. We need every bit of energy we can get." The doomsday device reached critical levels. Deep beneath the Vraxian capital, ancient machinery designed as a last resort against invasion activated fully. A blinding light erupted from the ground, spreading outward in a wave of pure destructive energy. It hit the containment field and stopped, held in check by Professor Volkov's creation. The field glowed brightly as it absorbed and redirected the energy, sending it harmlessly into space. For tense minutes, everyone watched as the field strained under the assault. Systems on the Vengeance overheated and failed. Power fluctuations rippled through the ship. But the field held. When the doomsday device finally exhausted its energy, the containment field dissipated. The Vraxian homeworld remained intact, though a large crater marked where the device had been. In the council chamber, Admiral Nakamura looked at the shocked Vraxian leaders. "Your weapon failed. Your homeworld survives. Now shall we discuss surrender terms?" The eldest council member bowed his head slightly, a significant gesture from one who had never bowed to anyone. The prophecy was indeed misinterpreted. It did not warn of our destruction, but of our arrogance. "We accept your terms." In the days that followed, a peace treaty was drafted. The Vraxian ruling caste would remain in power, but with significant reforms. The slave caste would be freed and given equal rights. All subjugated worlds would be released from Vraxian control, and a new alliance would be formed, not based on dominance, but on mutual respect and cooperation. As the human fleet prepared to return home, Dr. Webb made a startling discovery while studying ancient Vraxian texts. "Admiral," he said excitedly, entering her quarters on the Vengeance, "I've found something remarkable about the prophecy. It's not just about humanity challenging the Vraxians, it's about all intelligent species eventually joining together. The text speaks of a great assembly of minds that would surpass anything a single species could accomplish." Admiral Nakamura considered this. So instead of trying to prevent the prophecy, they should have been working to fulfill it in a positive way. Exactly. And now perhaps we can help make it happen. As the fleet jumped back toward Earth, Admiral Nakamura stood at the view screen, watching the stars blur around them. Humanity had not only survived its first interstellar war, it had emerged stronger, with new allies and technologies that would change their civilization forever. The Vraxians had picked a fight with humanity, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant and set in motion events that would reshape the galaxy for millennia to come. You picked a fight with humanity. Don't expect to survive. 1 year after the Vraxian surrender, Earth had changed profoundly. Cities now featured buildings with crystal spires inspired by Vraxian architecture. Vehicles moved through the air using gravity technology instead of wheels or traditional engines. And in orbit, massive construction projects created shipyards for a new generation of vessels that would carry humanity to the stars. Admiral Olivia Nakamura stood before the United Council, her formal dress uniform adorned with the medals she'd earned during the war. At 73, she had planned to retire after the fighting ended, but the discovery they'd made on the Vraxian homeworld had changed everything. The ancient archive we uncovered beneath the Vraxian capital contains knowledge from dozens of civilizations, she explained to the assembled representatives. Some of these species existed millions of years ago, others are still out there, waiting to be found. Dr. Webb, now head of the new Interspecies Research Division, continued the presentation. We believe the Vraxians weren't the first to misinterpret the prophecy. Many advanced species reached a point where they feared competition and chose isolation or aggression rather than cooperation. The archive was created by a coalition of races who saw a different path. A holographic display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Hundreds of stars lit up, each representing a known intelligent species. There are more of us out there than anyone imagined, Dr. Webb said solemnly. Some more advanced than the Vraxians, others just beginning their journey to the stars. The prophecy isn't about one species dominating others. It's about the potential when different minds work together. Admiral Nakamura stepped forward again. Which brings us to our proposal. We've consulted with our Vraxian allies, and together we've drafted plans for a galactic assembly, a place where all intelligent species can meet, share knowledge, and solve problems that affect us all. The council chamber erupted in excited conversation. The idea was ambitious beyond anything humanity had considered before. Some voices expressed concern about the risks of encountering more hostile species. Others worried about the resources required for such a massive undertaking. Governor Okafor of Mars, who had become one of the most respected voices in human politics after leading the resistance, raised her hand to speak. "A year ago, we were fighting for our very survival," she reminded the council. "Today, we're discussing our role in a galactic community. This transformation happened because we refused to accept defeat, because when the Vraxians picked a fight with humanity, they learned what we're truly capable of." She looked around the room. "I say we show the rest of the galaxy our better nature. Let's build this assembly not as conquerors but as builders." Her words swayed many doubters. After further debate, the council voted to approve the Galactic Assembly project. Humanity would join with the Vraxians and any other willing species to create a new future among the stars. In the months that followed, the first contact teams departed Earth. Using information from the ancient archive, they sought out nearby intelligent species who might join the assembly. Some missions returned with new allies eager to meet other races. Others reported civilizations that chose to remain isolated, at least for now. A few encountered hostility, but the hard lessons learned during the Vraxian War helped them avoid major conflicts. On a planet orbiting a yellow star 40 light-years from Earth, one such team made an unexpected discovery. The world had been listed in the archive as home to a primitive pre-spaceflight civilization. Instead, they found a thriving, technologically advanced soci. Eddie on the verge of developing their own faster-than-light travel. They call themselves the Ardani, reported Commander Riya Patel, who led the mission. Their development accelerated dramatically about 50 years ago, when they discovered ancient technology buried beneath their northern continent. Technology from what source? Admiral Nakamura asked during the debriefing. That's the interesting part, Commander Patel replied. It appears to be from the same civilization that created the archive. The Ardani call them the Forerunners, but they know very little about them except that they visited many worlds millions of years ago. Dr. Webb leaned forward, intrigued. Did they leave any messages? Any indications of why they buried their technology? The Ardani scientists believe it was intentional, a gift meant to be found when their civilization reached a certain level of development. The technology included scientific knowledge that helped them solve problems like sustainable energy production and climate stabilization. Admiral Nakamura considered this information. So there may be similar caches on other worlds, including Earth. It's possible, Commander Patel agreed. The Ardani are eager to join the assembly. They believe meeting other species is the next step in their development. While diplomatic missions continued throughout nearby star systems, construction of the Galactic Assembly proceeded in a neutral location, a massive space station positioned at the gravitational balance point between several major civilizations. Human and Vraxian engineers worked alongside teams from newly contacted species, each bringing unique perspectives and technologies. Professor Volkov, despite his advanced age, supervised much of the station's power system design. His work with dark energy had evolved into revolutionary new approaches to energy production and manipulation. The station's core uses principles from 6 different scientific traditions, he explained to visitors. What one species considered impossible, another had solved generations ago. Together, we're creating technologies none of us could have developed alone. Not everyone supported the Galactic Assembly project. On Earth and other worlds, some political factions warned against trusting alien species after the devastating Vraxian War. They advocated for isolation and military buildup instead of cooperation. Supreme Commander Drazkor of the Vraxian military was among the most vocal critics. Though the ruling council had accepted peace, Drazkor and many high-ranking officers believed surrendering had been a mistake. The humans survived our first attack because we underestimated them, he told his loyal followers during a secret meeting. We won't make that mistake again. While they build their naive assembly, we will rebuild our forces. When the time is right, we will reclaim our rightful place as the dominant species. Drazkor's conspiracy grew slowly, gathering supporters from the most conservative elements of Vraxian society. They established hidden bases on remote worlds, developing new weapons designed specifically to counter human technology. What Drazkor didn't realize was that his communications were being monitored. The Phantom, the enhanced operative who had infiltrated Vraxian ships during the war, had survived and continued to work from the shadows. Though never seen in public, this mysterious figure had become a near mythical protector of the peace, tracking potential threats before they could materialize. When the Phantom uncovered Drazkor's plans, the information was passed directly to Admiral Nakamura through secure channels. She faced a difficult decision: expose the conspiracy publicly, potentially damaging the fragile alliance with the Vraxians, or handle it quietly to preserve the peace. She chose a third option. During a scheduled diplomatic visit to the Vraxian homeworld, she requested a private meeting with the ruling council. I bring grave news, she told them, presenting the evidence of Drazkor's activities. This threatens everything we've built together. The eldest council member studied the information with dismay. We had suspected something, but not at this scale. Drazkor has always been ambitious, but we believed he accepted the new order. Clearly he has not, Admiral Nakamura replied. The question is, how do we respond? If humans deal with this threat, it could be seen as an act of aggression against your sovereignty. If you handle it internally but fail, we could face another war. The council conferred briefly in their silent communication method. Then the eldest spoke again. We propose a joint operation. Your intelligence, our authority. Together, we will end this threat before it endangers the Assembly. The operation against Drazikor's conspiracy was swift and decisive. Elite teams composed of both human and loyal Vraxian forces struck simultaneously at all known bases. Most of the conspirators surrendered when confronted by their own leadership working alongside humans. Drazkor himself attempted to activate a hidden weapon system on his flagship, but found it disabled by sabotage, the Phantom's final act before disappearing once more into the shadows. Brought before a joint tribunal, Drazkor remained defiant. "You cannot change the natural order," he declared. "Some species are meant to rule, others to follow." Admiral Nakamura addressed him directly. "That thinking nearly destroyed your homeworld and led to your defeat. The natural order isn't about domination, it's about adaptation. Species that can't adapt to changing conditions don't survive." "And humans believe they are the great adapters?" Drazkor asked mockingly. "We don't claim to be better than others," she replied. "Just different. Every species has strengths and weaknesses. Together, we complement each other. That's the true message of the prophecy your people misunderstood for so long." The tribunal sentenced Drazkor and his top lieutenants to containment at a secure facility, where they would have no contact with military or political systems. The conspiracy had been stopped before it could threaten the peace. 2 years later, the Galactic Assembly Station was completed. Named Convergence to represent the coming together of different species and ideas, it was a marvel of collaborative engineering. Its massive central hub could accommodate beings from worlds with different atmospheres, gravities, and biologies. Translation systems facilitated communication between species with radically different languages and thought patterns. On the day of the official opening, representatives from 23 intelligent species gathered in the main assembly chamber. Admiral Nakamura, now serving as Earth's ambassador, stood on the central platform alongside delegates from other founding worlds. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for all our civilizations," she began. 5 years ago, when the Vraxians and humans first met, it was in conflict. We fought because we feared each other, because we saw difference as a threat rather than an opportunity. She gestured to the diverse beings around the chamber. Some resembled humans in basic form, while others were utterly alien, crystalline, entities that communicated through light patterns, gaseous beings contained in specialized suits, massive aquatic creatures in hovering water tanks. "Look at us now," Admiral Nakamura continued. "Different in form, in thought, in culture, yet united in purpose. Together, we will explore the galaxy, solve problems no single species could address alone, and create a future greater than any of us could imagine separately." The eldest Vraxian council member spoke next. "Our people have a saying. Wisdom comes from seeing through many eyes. For too long we saw only through our own. We believed our way was the only way. The humans taught us otherwise, not through conquest, but through resilience and adaptability. One by one, representatives from other species added their voices, each sharing what they hoped to contribute to and gain from the assembly. The Ardani spoke of balance between technology and nature. The crystalline Litharians offered insights into mathematics beyond what organic minds had conceived. The gaseous Vaporans described their studies of stellar phenomena from perspectives impossible for solid beings. As the ceremony concluded, Dr. Webb joined Admiral Nakamura at an observation window overlooking the vast expanse of space. "Did you ever imagine this when you were on the Pathfinder, making first contact?" she asked. He smiled, the lines on his face showing the years that had passed. "Never. I hoped we might find other intelligent life. But this," he gestured toward the chamber where dozens of species mingled, "this exceeds even my wildest dreams." The Vraxians picked a fight with humanity because they feared what we might become, Admiral Nakamura reflected. They never considered that what we might become was better together than apart. That's the irony, Dr. Webb agreed. Their attack accelerated exactly what they feared, humanity's growth and expansion. But it happened in a way none of us could have predicted. As they spoke, a small ship docked at the station. Unlike the grand vessels that had brought the official delegations, this one was simple and unmarked. Its single passenger disembarked quietly, moving through the corridors without drawing attention. In a rarely used observation dome at the station's outer ring, Admiral Nakamura met this mysterious visitor, a figure whose face remained hidden in the shadows. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said. "The Phantom is supposed to be a myth, not a guest at diplomatic functions." "I'm not here as the Phantom," replied a voice altered to be unrecognizable. "I'm here as a witness. Someone should remember how close we came to destruction, and how we found a better way." "And will you continue your work?" Admiral Nakamura asked. "There are still threats out there, as long as necessary. But I hope one day I'll be obsolete, that this assembly will create a peace that doesn't need shadows to protect it." The figure moved toward the exit, then paused. The Vraxians were right about one thing. Humanity does have remarkable potential, but our greatest strength isn't technology or adaptability or even determination. It's the ability to see beyond conflict to cooperation. With those words, the Phantom disappeared once more, leaving Admiral Nakamura alone with her thoughts. She turned back to the window, watching as ships from 24 worlds moved around the station, their lights forming a constellation of cooperation. The war had begun because an advanced species feared what humanity might become. It ended when they learned what humanity already was, a species that might fight ferociously when attacked, but would offer peace even to those who had tried to destroy them. In the vastness of space, new civilizations would emerge and old ones would evolve. Some would choose isolation, others conquest. But those who joined the assembly would discover the truth that the ancient forerunners had tried to preserve. The greatest achievements come not from domination, but from the combined potential of different minds working toward common goals. The message echoed across the stars to any who might consider aggression against Earth or its allies. You picked a fight with humanity? Don't expect to survive unchanged. For humans don't just overcome their enemies, they transform them into friends. And in that transformation lies the greatest victory of all.